Welcome to an introduction to aerospace engineering. My name is Dr. Peter Hollingsworth. I'm a senior lecturer here in aerospace engineering, focusing on aerospace systems design. What we're going to talk about over the next many weeks is a quick survey and a blunt club. Those things that I think are interesting and those things that we feel as a department you should learn. Every week, we're going to start our topics with a little cartoon. I'll leave you to think about this and what this means in terms of the material you're going to learn. So, in this unit, our goal is to introduce you, as first-year aerospace engineering students, to both aeronautics and astronautics. That's both flight within the atmosphere and flight outside the atmosphere. As part of this, we aim to provide an appreciation for the history of aerospace engineering. And we expect that you will know, at the end of this, some of the key topics and times in flight. We're also going to provide a basic understanding of the regimes of flight, including the atmosphere and exoatmospheric area. Introduce you to the theory and model of flight mechanics for both atmospheric flight and orbital flight, and introduce you to propulsion systems and spaceflight. At the end of this, what should you know? So by the end of this unit, you should be able to describe the key players, events, and trends in aerospace engineering history, from back before manned flight all the way through the modern era. So we're going to talk about those key players, those in ancient history, people like Isaac Newton, and modern players up to today. You should be able to describe the atmosphere, its key regions, and the effects of those regions on flight. You should probably also be able to calculate simple things with regards to the atmosphere. You also need to be able to calculate simple flight trajectories, both of fixed-wing aircraft in the atmosphere and of spacecraft. And you should have the ability to estimate, at its most basic level, the performance of both aeronautical and astronautical, or aerospace vehicles. How we're going to do this. We're going to do this through a series of lectures. These are 10 topics over the course of 11 weeks, with a gap week, a break week in the middle. And those will be delivered as short videos. So this topic, a given topic, may be 3 or 4 videos that add up to an hour or an hour and a half of lectures. We're going to follow that up with online synchronous question and answer sessions. So what this means is that we expect you to watch online these videos in advance of the session, to develop questions for the lecturer, and to be able to answer questions. There will also be supplementary reading assignments that you may wish to undertake to help your understanding. On top of this, we have what we call our practical sessions. Now, these are primarily online, and these are group and individual in nature. And if we can, given the restrictions, we will have outdoor in-person ones for the early ones, the glider activity. So this consists of 2 separate activities. One is the glider activity, which is actually practical. You will be throwing a glider and looking at how it performs and understanding its behavior. And the second one is a systems activity. And this is an activity where you will work in small groups, either meet up online or meet up in person, whatever is most appropriate for you, to digest some key information, source information, summarize it, and teach it to each other. And then, of course, we've got our online material in addition to all of this, and then we have a reference reading material. Okay, so that's how we do our delivery. How do we do our assessment? Well, this unit, like it's always been, is 50-50 coursework and exam. Now, that's a little bit different for this year, and I'll explain what that means, but it's the same basic understanding. We have our coursework. Our coursework consists of 3 multiple choice assessments. There's the glider activity assessment and the systems activity assessment that are related to each other, and then they go work with the practical activities. And these are nominally the due dates. Don't worry about those. The official due dates will be published shortly on Blackboard. And then we have a midterm quiz. And as you can see, each of these is worth 10 or 20% of the unit. Finally, you have an exam. It's a 2-hour exam, and it's going to run online. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It is unseen. You will have never seen this before. Unlike the multiple choice questions, which are auto-marked and you can see the answers as soon as everybody's finished, these were more sophisticated questions, and what we'll do is answer and provide feedback to those as we get through it. Okay, so the online tests. They're implemented in Blackboard. Historically, you would have had to complete these in University of Manchester clusters. However, you can do this wherever you are in the world, because we don't expect that you will necessarily be there in person. They are truly open notes and open book, open internet even, but you are not supposed to talk to each other. Now, we can't stop you from talking to each other. So what do we do instead? These are very, very time limited quizzes, meaning if you have to look up a lot of stuff or talk to friends, you will not be able to finish them. Secondly, all of these are set up so that once you've completed a question and moved on, you can't return to it. The questions are in a random order, and the answers within the questions are going to be in a random order. So if you complete you're struggling in question 10, you can't ask your friend what question 10 is, because it will be a different question for them. And if you say, well, what's the answer to how does an aircraft fly? They can't say B, because it might be C on yours. One other thing, and this is something you may not have experienced. Negative marking is in effect on these questions. So that means guessing wrong has a penalty. So if you get 1 point for getting it right, you will lose half a point or a quarter of a point or even maybe a whole point for guessing incorrectly. So yes, you can get marks on a question that take away from other questions. Obviously, you can't get below a 0 on an assessment, but it may significantly hurt you if you start guessing. So try narrowing your answers down before you guess. The exam. The online exam will take place in January. This will all be compulsory questions. For some of them, negative marking will still be in effect. If we ask you for two things, don't just brain dump. So I might ask you for two reasons that the troposphere, two things about the troposphere and the atmosphere. What you don't want to do is give me 50, because you might have 2 right ones, but if you have 10 wrong ones, you will get 0. It is open book, but the way you should approach this isn't just sit there with the book and the internet, because this, again, is very time limited. What you should do, and we'll talk about it more in our review discussion and our online synchronous activity for review, is you should prepare a single handwritten side of A4. On this, you can put anything you like, but you should write it yourself. And then bring that with you when you sit down to take the exam, because you only get one chance to do the exam and you only get a certain amount of time. So if it's with you, it helps you. And that means I don't expect you to know every answer by heart, but I expect you to understand and be able to choose what is the right material to use to answer a given question. The supplementary text. I recommend you find a copy of this permanently. The library has copies that you may be able to check out, but buy one. Every lecture will contain references to material in this text, and the text is Introduction to Flight by John D. Anderson. There's several editions out there. The 8th or 9th edition are the most appropriate, but you can use older editions. Read up on that as you see you need it. There's nothing in this book that isn't in our lecture videos that will be examined. So the book only adds depth, context, and meaning. So you can get away without reading the book, but it's very useful. I still use this as a reference today, and I took this type of unit over 25 years ago. Okay. My contact information is here. The office hours are going to be a bit different because we're going to do those online. My office, if it's open, is in George Begg C30. However, given the current conditions, there's a good chance I won't be there. If you need to get a hold of me, please email me, or even better, use the Blackboard frequently asked questions and discussion boards. Don't email me about questions in the unit because other people will have those questions. But email me about personal things, like if you're ill or you can't make an assessment, and I can help you find out the right mitigating circumstances. If you have a question of, say, the topic, put it in the discussion boards because other people may answer those or I can answer those and it helps everybody else out. Okay, our teaching schedule. I recommend you follow this. There are only so many days in the year. So we have 11 weeks of teaching from the start of our teaching till Christmas and a revision week after. There'll be a revision lecture that will be posted in an online session that everybody can attend in the revision week. So we have the 11 weeks. Our first week, we're going to talk about this and then what is aerospace engineering. In week 2, look at the topic of a very abridged history and on and on. Each of these weeks will be presented as a series of 1 or more videos that you can watch at your leisure. And then we will follow those up with the question and answer sessions. A key one is week 7. There are no videos for you to do. This is when you should be revising for your midterm quiz and taking it. It's also in line with the practical activities we'll start in those slots. Any questions? Okay, if you've come to the end of this video, and it is still week 1, it's time to start the topic of what is aerospace engineering. So please go back to Blackboard and go to that section of the Blackboard page and start the first video. I will see you online in a little while.